Okay, good afternoon and welcome to Iyun, Shulchan, Aruch. We have a halacha, a simon today, simon Yud Beis, number 12 in Orach Chaim, where we talk about the length of the tzitzis. If the tzitzis got cut off, called gardume tzitzis, the tzitzis got cut off, right? You're supposed to have tzitzis that each string is good beis gudolim, like we said yesterday, which is approximately either 24 centimeters or 28.8 centimeters according to the Chazon Ish. Each of the 8 strings. Now, let's say it's cut down, it got ripped. Sometimes people's scissors get ripped. You're missing part of the string. So, if you're missing part of the string, sometimes it gets ripped. You're missing part of the string. So the Shulchan Aruch says that as long as you have Kedei Aniva, as long as you have the amount of string enough to make a knot, because in Doraisa all you need is the ability to make a knot, Kesher Elyon Doraisa, then it's okay. But the Shulchan Aruch says that if you have 2 strings that are both missing, and they don't have enough Kedei Aniva, so then it would be possible, because we're not sure if those 2 strings that are 8 are really one of the 4 strings. The 8 strings are really 4 strings that are doubled over. So if those 2 strings are really one and the same, they're one of the 4 big strings, and you don't have the Aniva on each of them, that whole string is possible. You only have 3 big strings, and you only have 3 tzitzis, and not as opposed to 4 tzitzis, which is not going to be enough for your shear. Now, if it's even though it's a suffix in this case, because you don't know, it's very possible that the 2 strings that don't have Kedei Aniva are 2 different strings, which means they have the other side of the string, which is very long, which is another Yud Beis Gudalim. So for sure, okay, it's much more than Kedei Aniva. We're still machmir because of suffix. As we explained, the concept of the suffix is that even if it's not a suffix a shackle, it's not 50%, right? The chances are, in this case, that the number is aligned, that really you could be makel. Really, you could be makel, and it's probably not the same string. It's only one suffix. It's considered a suffix at the end of the day. A suffix is a suffix. And you have to be worried about it as long as it's a miyud achashuv. It's a miyud that's very possible. Suppose we talk about, let's say you have, it has enough, meaning even if it's the same string, right, and each of them doesn't have Kedei Aniva, but if you put them together, if you undo the tzitzis, and it was the same string, it would be Kedei Aniva, right? It would be Kedei Aniva, or it would be a suffix was Kedei Aniva, it would be a suffix was Kedei Aniva. So that's a sveika, because first of all, it might be 2 different strings. Even if it's the same string, right, it might be enough, right? If you untie it, it might be together, right? Each of the separate strings don't have Kedei Aniva, but if you took it out, it's really the same string, and together they might have Kedei Aniva. Sveika, again, we're machmir. Why are we machmir over there? So the Mishnah Berurah passages were machmir. So the reason you have to explain over here is because Sveika, the reason we explained today in Mishnah Yomi that Sveika we go Lakula is because the Torah doesn't burden you with double Sveikas. You don't have to think so hard. The Torah, it's hard enough to make one decision in life. To make one decision. Shall be machmir, should not be machmir. That Torah says, okay, be machmir, even if it's a miyad, it should be choshish for it. When it comes to a second suffix, the Torah says, don't think about it. It's too much to think about. But if I have a way of undoing it, if I have a way of mavarer, right, of figuring it out, and here I could mavarer, I could untie the tzitzis and figure it out, even though it's a little bit of work. But that's not called a sveik. It's not called a sveik over here, because since the efshal avarer, I could untie the tzitzis and figure it out. So therefore, the Torah says first be mavarer, and then you have you're only left with one suffix, and then you have to be machmir that suffix. So efshal avarer is a time where that basically sveika, even though we go lakula, efshal avara, we wouldn't go lakula. This is a svara they talk about in terms of kilayim. Even though it's no more sveika, you could go lakula. And Mesachas Ksuvos on that base, sveika lakula. When you could be avara, we see from this halacha that you wouldn't go lakula, and it makes sense. Look into it. Tell me what you think. Bye.